Hi, welcome to the unveiling of A Resurrection in Four Stanzas. This sculpture is the culmination of a year and a half of work with community. I'm super excited that this project can be a marker for all the history that we've learned and for all the stories that the community has told us. So the first of the four pieces of sculpture is this porch. And the porch was really important to include because it is the space where families gather. It's a space where you can talk to your neighbors, you're watching the street and life go by. And so it just represents this communal space. It was important to include some of the original architectural details like the corbel here and be true to some of the architectural details like the railing. Obviously this is not the full porch. This is built to architectural scale, but the point was not to recreate the whole house, but to create these thresholds. One of the big themes that I wanted to focus on for the project was movement. So we're talking about migration of the African Americans that came to this community, but also the forced displacement through eminent domain. And so this idea of movement and threshold was a theme that I really wanted to focus on. And so the shadows are an important part for that reason, because the shadows are always changing, they're always moving. So even though this is a steel sculpture, it gives it a sense of movement. And in the roof, we have a quote from Maya Angelou about home, because I think the idea of home is important when you're talking about displacement. It goes beyond house. The next piece of sculpture is the doorway, another threshold. It's the final threshold between inside and outside and represents security. And at the base of that, we have buried a time capsule. And the time capsule is a collection of letters and photos from community, as well as pieces from the project and general wishes for the year 2070 when this will be unearthed. It also includes work from students that we did in workshops at schools here in Santa Monica, and I feel like it's a really significant part of the project. So if we go through the door, the pattern here is meant to be a record of how these houses were destroyed. So we know that after eminent domain, instead of a typical demolition, these houses were burned, and it feels something like a spectacle. And so I wanted to record that in some way into the house. So we have a flame pattern here at the bottom, and then kind of the crackle or breaking of glass. The next piece is a representation of the house. Again, just a sliver of it, meant to be a threshold. The pattern is really important, so I wanted to kind of celebrate this idea of home and the lives that were lived and the hopes that people had. And so it's just a reflection meant to like give life, make us think about the people who lived here. And there are two patterns of photos cut in the side. The visibility of them all depends on the time of day and how the light and shadow is falling. In the roof is a bit of prose that I wrote to reflect on domestic life, a celebration of the dreams that people had, and just enjoying family time together. So it's just meant to be a reminder of what was lost beyond property, but this sense of community. And the fourth piece is the window, meant to be a representation of the future, of reflection, contemplation, and dreaming. As an overall concept, I felt it was important not to create an object on a pedestal, but a space that people could walk through and move through and inhabit. I hope that the space is used for classes, for performances, for poetry readings, and it really becomes an active stage in a way. At the end of the sculpture is the artist label, and it was really important to go beyond a typical artist label that just lists the information about the materials, because there is so much history included in this project and in the sculpture itself. And this gives you a little bit of information about those historical elements. And then there's information on how you can learn more on the website for Belmar History and Art at the City of Santa Monica.